Hi everyone, I'm Chanel J. Wilson, and I am going to do my review on my experience at a night with Janis Joplin this weekend at Bob Hope Theater in Stockton. So let's get started. You're so amazing. Hi everybody, I am here to do this lovely review. I am still just taking everything in from my experience this weekend. So I was able to go and see Turnaround Artists Presents A Night with Janis Joplin. The Bob Hope Theater, I'm about to see Janis Joplin's. It's a play, A Night with Janis Joplin, and they're going to talk about Aretha Franklin, Etta James. Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be so much fun. This weekend. And it was so amazing. It says the events that made the women, the woman who made the music that changed history. And, you know, let's just jump right in. That's the stage right before. Okay, I'm going to put my phone away because I can't have it during the show. So overall, the show was really good. Really good. I'm not going to give it a grade because it's a little bit different than giving it like a grade from an entertainment kind of place. But this is more about my experience, my encounter, because I am a songwriter, I'm a musician, I'm a singer. And when I listen to other artists, I end up taking in things from that artist. And of course, you know, Janis Joplin passed away almost 10 years before I was born. So my only connection to her has been the recordings and the videos that she's ever put out. And I'm familiar with Cry Baby, her song Cry Baby, and my first introduction to her, that song for me, was when I was watching Look Who's Talking as a little girl. And I just always remember that grainy voice. And then as I got older and started doing more music and taking more classes and history lessons, that's when I learned more about her, but still not in the depth and detail like I did with this play review. It was more like a review, like it was like a conversational play. It was really, really, really done well. So overall, it was just a breathtaking experience. Like, even now, I'm a little speechless. I hope you can see it on my face. I took some video clips. I'll plug them in later when I do my editing, so you can see just my excitement. So, let's see. Let's just jump right in. Watching this review is the closest I'll ever get to see Janis Joplin singing live. And the lead was Mary Bridget Davies. And in her bio, she says, now I don't know if she says that the person who wrote it says it, but they call her an interpreter of Janis Joplin's music. So instead of it being like a Janis Joplin impersonation, I felt like Mary Bridget Davies put her heart on the table and just allowed her body kind of to be used, like almost to be channeling, in a sense, of Janis Joplin, because as soon as she hit the stage and began singing the songs, the way they had set it up, you were just like, oh my God, like it was that, you were that blown away at just what she put together. So I like how they wrote that. She's an interpreter of her music, almost like someone giving sign language or someone translating something from one dimension to another. And nothing was lost at all. Now there is a difference in their voices, but she still connected as close as possible as we could get. When you hear Mary's voice, it's got that grit, it's got that grain, it's got that all that you hear in Janis. The difference with Janis is, I've always noticed that Janis's voice was never polished. It was just raw. So that was the only difference that I got from it. And that's not a negative difference. It was still beautiful. It was still raw and just rock. But it wasn't just rock. And that's what I want to touch on today with this review. So when it comes to the breakdown of the songs, what they did was, it was set up as if it was a band, and it was basically made to feel like we were at a Janis Joplin concert, but over a span of time. It wasn't like a play where it was like, okay, they have the mom and dad playing roles. It was more like conversational. And as she would talk in between each tune, she would share bits and pieces of Janis's story from the place of Janis. The parts that were so big was how the songs kind of came about, how she picked certain songs that really touched our heart. And so I'm looking here on the program right here, and how she was moved by the Chantels, and they would have the background singers, and the people that were in here, I'm gonna read their names: Ariana Angelique, Ashley, Tamar Davis. I was so tickled when I saw Tamar was in this program. I was like, oh my God. I have been listening to Tamar since her Milk and Honey days with Prince. She used to sing with Prince on the Beautiful, Loved and Blessed. Well, it was the 3121 tour, and she did Beautiful, Loved and Blessed, and I believe they won a Grammy for that. It was Grammy nominated. And then they were doing, around 2006, they were doing a whole tour for her to get her ready for Milk and Honey. And I remember during those times, Tamar was just up there on that stage, just, had a stepchild, just doing it, and it was just so much great. It was just like, oh my God, Prince, where did you find her? She's amazing. And then they freaking shelved the album. Like they were all over the place getting her ready for this. And then the label decided to shelve the darn album. So the only way I can hear, I love the song Sunday in a Park by her. The only way I can listen to Milk and Honey is, I know they put a couple of unreleased stuff out right before the album. So there's different snippet stuff out there. And then every now and then somebody will post something like, oh, I found a copy of this song from that album. So you get to take a listen and see. But then, so I would really, this is what I'm going to say is before I move on. If you guys could release that Milk and Honey album, I don't even know who the label was, but release it. Please release it. That's the album I would love to own. I even saw it online in like London somewhere for like $400, and if I had it, I would have bought it. That's how good. And the reason I'm saying that is because when Tamar and Prince were together, it was just magic. It was just beautiful. It was just I've been watching some of those videos of the shows. I know I know this is my Tamar appreciation. Tamar, I loved you. I loved you so much. Just want you to know that right now. Okay. So Ashley Tamar Davis, when she played Nina Simone, she played Aretha Franklin in the show, and that was amazing. The other person on the list is Tawny Dolly. And Tawny played Etta James. She was Chantel, and she was a part of the Joplin band. And then Jennifer Lee Warren, and she also played a blues singer. And so the way they did it was the character Janis would start talking about how she came in contact with this music, how she was a little girl watching the Chantels and would hear a song that they did, or how her mom would play show tunes when they cleaned up on Saturdays. Everybody would pick a chore to do. Her mom would put show tunes on, and they would all pick different parts. And as the vinyl record was playing the different show tunes, somebody would come out playing or singing or doing something. And she mentioned how that started to shape her ear for music. But then when her mom played Porgie and Bess, she said something happened to her. She said it was something about just that whole experience of hearing Porgie and Bess And the first time she ever heard Summertime, that just reshaped her whole life. And they even showed it in the visuals of how when the Broadway parts, when the upbeat, more warm stuff was playing, she was more upbeat. But as soon as Porgie Bess came on, she just sat down and something triggered her art. Something happened for Janis in that. And so then they had the blues woman came out as if she was singing in a juke joint, and she would sing Summertime the way it was sang in Porgie Bess. And then she was just like, I felt like somebody was calling me. And then the lady who's playing Janis jumps out and sings Summertime, and it was just like, oh my god, like, okay. And she just said it was something about what was happening in there. She was like, the blues is just like two little notes, or you have a certain kind of 12 bar thing going on, and the whole thing about the blues is that it's a dark music. You're singing about what you do not have, and in life you're always chasing that carrot, so to speak. So she said something just resonated with her. I mean, her life experience. One thing she said in the play was, she said, I'm a middle-aged white woman. And she was singing it as if she was Janis. She goes, I could have easily just did what my parents wanted me to do, finish college, got married, had some babies, and move on. But she was like, something in my soul was like, I got to get out here and sing. I feel something within my heart. She used to draw too. She used to draw her sister, and she used her sister as her to pose for her so she could draw. And so she was just like, something in my spirit was like, this is where you need to be. She felt the music was always calling her. Then she talked about Odetta, another blues singer, and how she heard Odetta sing Down on Me, and that's a gospel song. And she started off in a little place in Texas, and then she moved to a different area in Texas where they were doing more music for school, and they had her show up to sing. And so for her, she was like, I don't really know a whole lot of stuff. So she had the two band people that she was working with, they sat and they learned Down on Me, and they made it rock instead of gospel. So we got to hear both versions, where the gospel singer sang it, and it was just this rich, gospel-y, just coming into it, and you're just like, oh, I'm so moved. And then she said, so I just did what Odetta did, and then they rocked it up, and then she just and you hear her, and you're just like, oh my god, I cannot explain how blown away. I'll show the clips. I'll try to plug clips in so you can see, just because we couldn't film in there, of course, but during intermission I tried to film myself to just show my excitement, because it was just like, I was like, I feel like I'm at church. That's how much just energy was in that room. Then she did a Piece of My Heart, and the whole audience, all of us, just went wild. And everybody, it was just like, oh my god. And the vocalist, Mary Bridget Davies, she just gave it her all. Like, it was just like, and even though I know this is Mary's interpretation of Janis Joplin, and even though I know their voices, they sync up pretty good. Like, you hear people do like an interpretation, and you're waiting to hear what you hear in the inflections in the record. She did really good, but she channeled her in a way. It was just like, your interpretation of Janis was just spot on. I'm so glad I got to see her performance in it, because I was so moved by it. It was just like, she was just like, just, and it was just like, oh my god, like, I went with my, I'm just gonna call him my partner for right now. We're not having any labels right now. Yes, I'm a single woman, but he is, we have a child together. We are co-parents, and we are also musicians. We do music together. We have a band called the Joystone, and we were just saying, okay, because right now we are co-parenting. We're friends. We love each other. And so we're just going to say partner right now, and take it however you want. It don't matter. But anyways, we were talking, we both were experiencing this music, and we're just like, this was amazing. Oh my God. Cause he plays guitar and sings, and he loves rock. He loves Janis Joplin. Like, he called me. He was just like, I just got us tickets to see Janis Joplin's show. I don't know what to expect. Be ready. And I was like, all right, I'm there. And for me, like I said, my only experience with her is only knowing Cry Baby, and knowing the experience I had the first time I heard that. And then also some of the videos I've watched online. But it was like being dipped in a well. That's really the only way I can explain it. It was like I was dipped in a well. They had another one where she did Today I Sing the Blues, and that was another blues singer. And then she talked about her experience with Bessie Smith. And they had a woman come out and saying, nobody knows you when you're down and out. And what Janis Joplin's character was saying in that part was she felt like Bessie was always speaking to her. And when she found out that how she died, she talked about how that really impacted her life and how Bessie Smith died on the way to a show and was buried in an unmarked grave. And she was like, here this woman spoke to my life, my soul, and she still gets buried in an unmarked grave. I believe later on in life, Janis Joplin and one other person helped give her a headstone at some point. I read some of that online. If I'm not right, if you have more details, please say something in the comment section about that. And then they ended it with Spirit in the Dark, and she basically was talking about her experience with Aretha Franklin. And this part was so moving for me. Tamar did play the Aretha Franklin, so I love Tamar's voice, and it was so much spirit in that room when they did that part. She came out and in the spirit. It was jumpy. I'm not playing. The whole audience, it was like audience participation. One lady like ran the stage, like they had to get security on her. It was that much live energy. People were dancing in the aisles and just, it was so full. And for me, it moved me because, we just lost Sister Aretha Franklin. And, I watched that 9-hour, the funeral. And even though I was at home watching it, I felt like I was at the actual service. And, we just watched it and, everything that happened, the different vocalists that got up. Yeah, the speaker and just everything that happened. And I just remember being so heartbroken that we lost our Queen of Soul. And I remember another person even said, I didn't know this was going to impact me this way. Mainly because, we didn't know Aretha Franklin like a family member or something. I mean, I'm saying family, but we didn't know her as far as like we had a meal with her or anything, but we knew her about her music and her art, and she's been a part of our lives. So it was like, dang it, we just lost a family member. So to see that moment with Janis Joplin and Aretha Franklin, and they played that little role, that really, really moved my little heart. Like I was blown away. I was in tears. And she just said, Janis got the spirit. It was so cool. She's like, Janis got the spirit. And then Janis started singing, and she just got right in the pocket of the gospel groove that they were singing. And I cannot stress how moved I was by that experience. And in that moment, I've always known that rock music is a branch from gospel and R&B, or actually gospel and the blues, because R&B actually comes from gospel and the blues. So I'm going to take it. So I know rock comes from that as well. And a lot of people will try to, say, okay, this is black music or this is white music or that, but it's actually not. I'll try to figure out how I want to express this part. We're all human beings. Yes, we all have a soul. There's something going on with our experience. And when we make music, especially the blues music, when we make these songs, this artwork, these things, these lyrics, they come out of our experience. And of course, with the black culture in American society, we have had such a blue experience, a terroristic experience. And, we're still seeing I was about to say residue, but it's not even residue. We're still seeing roots of the issues of what we've been dealing with since we came to this country. When the character Janis Joplin said, having the blues is about the have-nots. It's about seeing this carrot dangled in front of you and you not being able to even obtain it. The experience with black people is, we're not immigrants. We were captured and stolen and brought over to be that labor force. We were slaves. We worked for free. It was chattel slavery. It was not indentured servitude. And the way the chattel slavery, it robbed us of our humanity, our person, our human dignity. We had our civil rights movement. There were so many different things that we had to just to be seen as a human being. And then the various conditionings that we experienced, it was just very inhumane. And even now, there's still things that happen that are very inhumane. And you see a lot of that expressed in our music and in our art form, because that's really all we have. It's like a clarion call almost. You know, the Bible talks about prophets and the cries of the oppressed, and you hear that in our music, especially in the blues, especially that stuff that came out of the Deep South. And then how it translates over into gospel, and it translates over into the R&B. So for Janis Joplin to do her interpretation, you know, to do her, that's what she was explaining. She said, this was my interpretation of what I was hearing. She said, I could easily just be a middle-aged. She said, this is what the character said, in the play. She said, I could easily just went on into a middle-class, white lifestyle. But she said, something in my heart was calling me. She explained one time she was in a room, and there was this light that used to pierce through their closet. I guess there was like a sunlight or something in there. And at night when she would see it, she said she would hear certain vocalists, Nina Simone's, Odetta, the Chantel, just different vocalists speaking to her, Etta James, saying, you've been called to do something, basically. And she didn't, and she wrestled for a minute, but then she just went for it. And that voice, and I believe she was saying in there that she was bullied and misunderstood as well, and you know, had problems with love, not being able to, she had relationships, but just as far as having that constant love. I remember one time in the play she expressed how when she was on the stage, that's where she felt most alive. That's where she felt like she was making love to every person in the audience. Not just the sexual aspects of love, but actually the engaging and the connection. And then she'd leave the stage and go home alone. That's what she said. I went home alone. And she said, yeah, I got a drug problem. That's what she said in the thing. And people like to ask me, am I a tortured soul? That was one thing in the place she said. And you know, we saw what happened as her life played out. I even went up and read a little bit about that. And something in my spirit was like, don't focus on the death. Focus on what happened in between the life. Focus on what she did. Yeah, her death was very tragic. And it was really sad. You know, she did have one stint where she got cleaned up. And, you know, in between recording a project, you know, yeah, she lost her life. And even the way they did that part was so tasteful. Like, because my ex and I were like, yeah, I'm calling him my ex. I didn't want to say that. My partner, I'm saying partner, because, and partner doesn't just mean relationship. It just means my friend. We work together. We co-parent together. So we were talking about in the car on the way back how we didn't know how they were going to address her death, because the play was so upbeat, and it took you through so many different roller coaster waves. So I was like, are they going to do like some dramatic death scene? And he was like, I was so glad they didn't make it dramatic. They did it so tastefully. They did it kind of in the song. They ended it with, I'm going to rock my way to heaven. And it was like, that was, and then at the end of that, they put a picture up of Janis as a little girl. And it was like, and there was candles, and it was so tasteful how they did that part. So you didn't feel the downer of, yeah, I know she had such a tragic, because that part is so sad when you know that, when you understand that. Other parts that stuck out was the Nina Simone part. Janis Joplin explains how she first heard Little Girl Blue, and she always felt that Nina Simone was speaking to her and singing that. So then when you hear their two versions, even the lyrics are a little bit different in the end. And while I was preparing this one, I just sat on YouTube and just kind of refreshed a lot of the songs that I heard. I wanted to hear Janis sing it, and like I said, Mary Bridget Davies' voice and Janis Joplin's voice are very close. As a vocalist, as a musician, as someone who has worked in a studio and has to listen to a lot of mixing, panning, and various timbres, I can tell the difference. Someone who does not have my expertise in music studies, because I did go to school for this, I do have a certificate and a degree and years of experience, may not notice the difference. I do. And it wasn't a bad difference. Please hear me. She did an amazing job. You know, some people, like I said earlier, people will do like a cheap interpretation. This was not a cheap interpretation at all. She really was an interpreter, and she held the position with such reverence. I can't stress that enough. Like, when she did Ball and Chain, I swear, I was in tears. When she was like, and then they would hit certain parts and the lights would hit, and you could just, she gave it all. Sorry about that. Mary Bridget Davies, hats off to you. You gave it all you had. And like I said, that's the closest I'm ever gonna see a Janis Joplin performance live. And so then when I went online to watch it, their timbres are a little bit it's spot on, but there's certain things that I noticed. My partner and I are in the car talking about how he was like, I love how Mary did this and that, and he goes, you know, I love ball and chain. He goes, what gets me about Janis, you know, she'll just get up there and do it, and even if she off key. And I was like, right, because you know he's studied her music and likes her music a lot more, and so he'll just saturate himself in certain ways, phrasings that she does things, and he goes, you know, she'll just get up there, and if the key is wrong, she's just gonna do. I mean, she usually is in the pocket of the key, but it's very raw. Janis Joplin always gives you this raw, unpolished voice, and I appreciate that because it shows her humanity. It shows the human spirit of the music. It shows the raw energy. So I mean, I'm just people say I'm at a loss for words. I'm trying to stay focused on how I want to talk about my experience, but I'm so excited about the experience that I find myself kind of just in a ball of all over the place with, I cannot believe I just witnessed this. This was amazing. I can only imagine what people experience seeing her at Woodstock, or seeing her at Monterey, or seeing her in New York, or seeing her overseas, or seeing her in real life during the late 60s and into 70s. She died I believe it was in the year 1970. So I can only imagine what their experience was like actually seeing Janis Joplin. I'm moved by her music with Mary Bridget Davies' interpretation, and that speaks to the legacy of music and the legacy of the life. Like I said, earlier when I was online looking at the 27 Club and looking at her death, something in me was like, stop focusing on the tragedy of the death and look at what she left behind. Look at the heart of the music. Look at the beauty of the music. Look at that art form. It's 2018. You know, she passed in 70, but she left her mark in a way where we were in that room. It was a packed house, you know, over 500 people, 400 or 500 people in there. And we're in this room, like, just rocking out to something that she did, that she felt in her soul she had to do. And people in the spirit in there. I mean, there was one woman, this lady looked like she could have been like 87, 88, you know, had her little cane. I don't know if she dyed her hair or if she put a wig on, but she was like, I'm here. And I know she was probably at Woodstock at one point in her life. She probably was older, you know, because she's in her 80s, because people who were there are probably like in their 60s, maybe. No, wait, no. I'm wrong. I'm going back in my brain. No, she was probably there. Let me do my math right. I'm not, I had to, because see, in this, one thing that I really paid attention to, and I'm a theater major, so this is my theater hat. You know, everyone, they committed to the time. So the band, the Joplinaires, they came out and they were dressed in what you would generally see someone wearing during that time frame. You know, the different hats and the bell-bottom style pants, the platforms. Everyone was committed to something so you really were taken back to that space and time. So to see the people that were in the audience knowing that they lived in that time, and to watch them now in 2018, almost revisiting their coming of age years, or that's why I had to go back and look at my math. Like, wait a minute, that woman is 80 something. She probably was either there at Woodstock in her reasonable youth, or maybe, I put her between maybe like 30, she'd have been probably like 35, well, maybe not, maybe like 40 something, if I really sat down and did some math. But what that does for me as a 37-year-old woman is, it shows me the cycle of humanity. It shows me the cycle of what's really happening in music. There's no time in music. Even though, yes, we have BPM, we have the time in music, when it comes to what comes out, that element is timeless. And that's what hits me the most of what the responsibility of music is, and what the responsibility that musicians have. So when I look at what's on the radio today, and this is not a diss to them at all. It's when I look at where we are as human beings and what we're doing with our music, we should always be in consideration of the musical moment, but also know that musical moment is going to be here when we're gone. and it's going to impact someone 50 years later. Like I said, Janis Joplin passed 10 years before I was born. My only experience in seeing her is on a video. And even now, that was interesting because as I was doing my preparation for this, I go on YouTube and I look at a couple of stuff. I went on her website that the estate manages, and the estate actually has something to do with the actual show as well. But even that was a little weird for me because I'm a Gen X Xennial. I still struggle with the technology sometimes. And seeing her in elements of Spotify or YouTube or hearing the electronics and then wanting to go watch a documentary or something, it was like, wow, look at this. It's not that it's robbed or anything. I believe that everything we have is a tool. I also believe that tools can be abused. So I appreciate the technology for what it is, but I will always respect the art form and give to the art form as is needed and only use my technology when I need that tool. So I don't want to use the technology as a crutch. I want to use technology only as a tool, but not letting it rob me from that. Because see, that raw, like I said, the difference in voices, her raw voice, that man, that was like skin and flesh and heart and just musicianship and pain bodies and different triggers and whatever she was going through. It resonated with my pain, my body, my life, my joy, my heart, my music. And that's what it's about. It's about giving something and then taking that to the next. And it's like Janis Joplin is still able to live out her calling even after her death. Because she said when she gets up on stage, this is when she feels like she's making love to someone. And like I said, she wasn't saying it from the place of sex. It was from the place of actually connection, intimacy, love. That's what music does. It's about creating that memory, showing a story, not telling it, and sparking something from the soul and heart. So that really hit home for me there as well. Let's see. My little videos are always 30 minutes. So I'm gonna try to will it in. So in the end, I didn't talk about, they did mention Etta James and they showed some things with that as well. And, they did Nina Simone and Bessie Smith. They all came out at once speaking to her. And this was right before she died. And this is how they tastefully weaved in that story without bringing a downer to the show, but still telling her story. But for me, overall, like, I had the opportunity, a few years back to sit in a class. It was like a master class. Well, you can call it that. But it was a performance class I was taking, and my teacher would always bring in guests. And my teacher is Clarity. She's actually a jazz singer. You can go online and check out her work. She's amazing. And so she brought in this particular day Nina Freelon. And I was in there like and it was so intimate because it was only I want to say 20 of us in class. So we got to have this moment, and that night we got to go to Yoshi's and watch Nina Freelon perform. And this is when Nina Freelon was doing her sketches of Billie Holiday tour. And the way she described it in class, and she talked about so much stuff. It just, I'm still floored by that experience. But love you, Nina Freelon, by the way. And one thing she said when we approached doing Billie Holiday for this record, she said, I didn't want to do an an imitation. I didn't want to jazz it up in a way where, okay, this is how she would do it. She said, I just wanted it to be like I took my ladle or my cup and dipped in the well of Billie Holiday and then took it back to my artistry and make it our own. And I thought that was amazing because when we went to the show that night, that's exactly what she did. And I'm somewhat familiar with Billie Holiday's work, not in detail like with other artists, but that's exactly what she did. And it was so rightly appropriate. and it moved us in a refreshing way. That's the only way I can word it. And that's kind of how I felt last night. Well, not last night, it was a couple nights ago, with Mary Bridget Davies doing Janis Joplin. It was like, she was like, I'm going to respect this role. I'm going to honor this role. I'm not going to come in, I'm an actor and I can sing like Janis Joplin and I'm going to get up here and do my thing. I'm going to be a diva. No, she was like, I'm going to respect this. I'm going to give myself totally into the art form. It is a cathartic, I'm a theater major, and it is a very cathartic experience. I cannot stress that enough. So if you have the opportunity to go see it, go check it out. I will do a slideshow of all my videos, and I'll definitely be back for something else. I'm Chanell J. Wilson. I'm a recording artist. You can check out my song Draw Near to Me on Spotify, Tidal, and CD Baby. And if you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. And please share your experiences. If you saw the show, talk about it below. Let's dialogue. And yeah, have a good one.